Hi, my name is Ingo Kiesewetter and I am representing the League of Women Voters. As I'm preparing this, we're commemorating the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment. So with the elections coming up here in just a few short weeks, make sure you go out and vote. The dish I'm preparing today is a classic French dessert, crêpes Suzette, or crepes I think in the American diction. The origins of the name are a little disputed, but most versions agree that it's named after a woman called Suzette, so that's what we're going to do. It is comprised of thin pancakes, crêpes or crepes in English, that are folded and then warmed in an orange butter sauce and flambéed. And the butter sauce is beurre Suzette, so that's where the name comes from. So the first step we're going to do is to make the batter for the crêpe. For that, we're going to use 3 tablespoons of melted unsalted butter mixed with 1 1/4 cups of milk, 4 eggs, and 1 cup of all-purpose flour and a pinch of salt. So I'm going to put that in my bowl. So all of this just mix together until it is a very runny dough. So you don't want this to be too firm and you don't want to overmix it. So a few lumps are fine. Add a pinch of salt. So this is about how it should look like. Once it is mixed up, we're gonna cover it and put it in the fridge for at least an hour. So we'll be back after that. The second step is to cook the crêpe. Using a non-stick pan with some butter over a medium heat, maybe a little bit less, so adjust as needed. About a 1/4 cup of the batter goes in and then gets swirled around until you have a very thin pancake. Kind of like this. So this cooks for about 2 to 3 minutes depending on the heat before it's time to flip. So make sure you get this not too brown, it should stay rather pale. If your batter is a little thick when you pour it, just add a touch of milk. And if it is too thin, you can always add a touch of flour to dilute the batter to make it pourable. If you have little nubs like that don't make it nice and round, just cut them off and eat them later. So I think it's about ready to flip. So use a thin spatula, flip them around and cook it for another 30 seconds or so. So you see it's puffing up a little bit, but you see the color is nice and pale, which is what it should be. Turn up my heat here just a little bit. So after a few seconds you can peek underneath and you see it is nice and cooked. So I'm just going to put it on a plate and let it cool down. Don't worry about the stack gluing together, they will actually separate out quite nicely. So again, a little bit less than a 1/4 cup. Right down the middle and then immediately swirl it around in your pan. This is actually easier in a round pan, but you use what you have. So you get a nice round surface. If you get little holes in there, you can always take a little dab, like you see a few holes in here. You can take a little dab of the dough and just glue them shut. Nobody will be any wiser. So this takes maybe 2 minutes, maybe a little bit less, really depending on the heat. Once they're done, they should really be as pale as you see here. So they should not get brown, which makes them brittle. So they should be nice and pliable. So again, you watch the outside, the perimeter, and you see little bubbles coming up, which is a good sign, and then you see more bubbles in the center, which means that it's fully cooked. So with that, I'm going to flip it around. You see it poofs up a little bit, and you see there's a couple of light brown spots, so I'm going to turn my heat down a bit. This is a little high. And then really cook the second side, particularly if your heat is a little high, for just a few seconds, and that's it. So at this point, once you have used up all your batter and you have a stack, just cover the stack with foil, put it in the fridge or put it in an airtight container until you're ready to use them. They will not stick together magically. I'm not sure how that works. In addition to crepes Suzette, you can use them in a variety of different ways. The classic is Nutella. Just put Nutella on one half and slices of banana and then fold it over. Classic French dessert. You can use them in savory applications. So if you have some mushrooms, fall coming up, saute some mushrooms, add some cream to it until you have a thick mushroom cream sauce, add some herbs, thyme would be good with that. And then build a stack. Put the crepe at the bottom, a bit of the sauce on top, maybe some Parmigiano on top, and keep building a cake. Once you have that done, then you can bake the whole cake and slice it like a tart. It's actually quite delicious. So serve them for brunch with cream cheese and smoked salmon, quite nice as well. So really just a foil that you can use in a multitude of different ways. Finally, we're making the sauce Suzette. For that we need 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter, about a quarter cup of sugar, more or less to your taste, the zest and juice of 1 or 2 oranges, and of course Grand Marnier, or for a local edition, bourbon. All of this goes into the pan. So we're going to add the butter, the sugar, the orange juice and the orange zest, and cook it until a nice caramel sauce forms. So after a few minutes of cooking, you can see the color is changing and it's going to become more creamy and thicker. So when you get this texture, this color, take crepe, put them in quarters and then just drape them into the liquid. Make sure you don't get too close and burn your hands. And then make sure you get the sauce all over and in between the crepe. And let the crepe warm up for a few minutes. So after a few minutes, when the crepe are nice and warm, keep on basting them. You're ready for the flambé. So before you do the flambé, turn the heat off. Make sure you have a lid to extinguish the flame should anything happen. And then take your liquor, I'm going to use Grand Marnier, flame off, and just pour a good glug in there. Then turn the heat back on and tilt the flame a little bit, the pan, and let the flames extinguish. After a little bit, the alcohol is burned off and we're ready to plate. So after you're done cooking them, put them on a plate and then enjoy. And there's an election coming up, so please go ahead and vote. Yum.